Everybody, here we go. It's July 10th, 2025, and it's the Ask Me Anything for Linchpin. Got a bunch of good questions. We'll dive right in. But before we kick it off, we'll do some of the shout outs and then we'll just have some fun. All right, so let's see what we got. We benched this week, so let's celebrate some PRs. This one is from Billy S. Says, I'm feeling great today. Hit a 15-pound bench press PR, and he benched 260 pounds. That is legitimate. And so, well done on that. That's a strong bench, 260. Next bench, bumping it up even a little bit more. This is from John M. Went for the attempt. Glad I did it. 270-pound PR. 270 pounds on the bench. That is a monster bench press. This is a cool one from Kenji. How are you? I see you. This is from Jake C. Jake, I actually think you've asked one of the questions this week. It says, just wanted to share a success story. I just got back from vacation. I've been doing Linchpin for 6 months. I took a pair of dumbbells and a jump rope and worked out every day. I had more energy for this trip than any other one in the last decade. I chased my son all over without getting out of breath. We swam, we jumped off cliffs, and we did adventure parks. Every year we visit the Ozark Mountains, and I wish I could do a trail run, but I'm never in good enough shape to do it. This year I knocked out a 5K on a tough trail that was steep, climbs, rocky beds, the whole 9 yards. It took me a slow 46 minutes, but I haven't done, whoops, sorry about that, but I haven't done any running outside what's programmed by Linchpin. Happy Monday, everybody. That's cool. So, Jake, congratulations, man. Well done. This one I entitled Feeling Better. Laura, how are you? Uh, let's see. A different Laura says, I gotta stop and thank Linchpin. You've given me my life back, truly. I've been in the CrossFit circle for over 12 years now. The last 5 years left me broken with a program that left me feeling really beat up. I'm a year out from having both of my hips replaced. I feel stronger than I've been in a very long time. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for this programming. I'm already making huge jumps and improving. So that's cool. We'd like to hear that. And one more shout out, because this is just obnoxious. Okay? This is from John F. I interviewed John F. previously on a Lynchpin members interview. I can't remember his exact age, but John's in his 50s from what I can recollect. And he went ahead and knocked over some barbell bent over rows. This is a little bit ago. And he got, let's see, his max bent over row. He got 3 reps at 265 pounds, a triple bent over row. He got a double bent over row at 275 pounds and a single bent over row at 295 pounds. Basically did a bent over row with 300 pounds on the bar. That is like a good deadlift for a lot of people. So that's crazy. So anyway, okay, let's kick off the questions, everybody. First one is from Greg S. I do jiu-jitsu twice a week, Monday and Wednesday. Based off that and keeping 1 or usually 2 rest days a week, how would you choose which workouts to do to optimize returns? What provides the most returns with only 3 days of Linchpin but 2 days of jiu-jitsu? So here's what I would say about that. There is a podcast that I did, and I think the title of it is Help I Can Only Work Out 3 times a week. I'm almost positive. So you could search Linchpin Conversations for that one. But my general guidance would be you're going to do jiu-jitsu twice a week. And if you're doing 3 Linchpin workouts, one Linchpin workout each day is a classic heavy day. Choose the classic heavy day. And then of the other 2 ones, if you have a good eye for gross movement patterns, meaning going below parallel, pressing in various directions, upper body pulling, hinging at the hip, whatever it happens to be, it would be nice to get some variety of gross movement patterns over the course of all 3 workouts. But choose the one heavy day each week. Then out of the other 2, I would choose, let's say, one longer one, maybe a not for time kind of an option that gives you the opportunity to really work on some good like strength and conditioning pieces as well. There's probably some burner aspects in there. And then one classic, like mixed modality, short and sharp kind of explosion. Those would be three good ones as well. Another one that I could say is out of the three, choose the heavy day. And then for the other two, choose one of them that makes you smile. It just has the movements that you love. It's going to be so easy to walk into the gym and say yes to. And that third workout, choose one that not necessarily makes you frown, but most certainly has things that are outside of your wheelhouse, areas which are potentially deficiencies, and things that you really should work on as an athlete. That would be another good way to think about how to choose three for that. Kevin D. How comparable are calories across brands for air bikes? Eco bikes are relatively rare on the secondhand market around here, but other brands pop up occasionally. For someone who's just trying to be fit and not competing, does the difference even matter? I mean, that last sentence sums it up for me. For somebody who's just trying to be fit and not competing, does the difference even matter? No, it really doesn't. So, I mean, the two most common probably ones, but they're pricey, with the Rogue Eco Bike and then the Assault Bike. Do those two count calories precisely the same? No. Are they really close? They're close enough for government work, and they're close enough for everyone to get really fit and not have to worry about it. Ah, but my buddy's got an Eco Bike, and when I use the Eco Bike, I'm off by 10 seconds per round. Whoop-de-doo. In the grand scheme of things, that's literally meaningless. You know, if you're, again, competing and your time down to the nanosecond has to be judged for a leaderboard and who advances, well, then it really matters. We're just trying to get fit, use the various pieces of gear, preserve the stimulus, you're going to be totally fine. And then even like old school Airdyne bikes that you'll probably find in the secondhand market. Now, those monitors, yeah, those can vary a fair amount actually. And there are some rough metrics and ratios that we can provide if you look at like the notes under any particular workout. And it might say for this bike it's a 1-to-1 ratio, for this bike it's a 1-to-2 ratio, for this bike it's a 1-to-5 ratio, for example. And don't quote me on that, but it could be something like, hey, it's 10 calories per round. And that 10 calories per round assumes that you have an assault bike or an eco bike, but you've got a Schwinn Airdyne from 1991. Well, there's a good chance that the calories won't line up and you have to use like a 1.5 ratio for that. So while it'd be 10 calories in the eco bike and the assault bike, you're going to do 15 calories per round on that Schwinn Airdyne. Now, you could have a newer Schwinn Airdyne. It could be different, but with some playing around, with some interaction with the community, with some tests if you wanted to run at different RPMs and different time domains on the bike that you happen to have, I bet by bouncing those times and calories and meters off of other people in the community, you could get a really good sense of whatever bike you happen to pick up on the secondhand market. What is the ratio you should use for that? And also, if I had an air bike in my garage and the monitor was smashed and broken and there was no way I could tell, like I could pedal the bike, I pedal slower, it's easier, I pedal faster, it's harder, but the monitor doesn't work at all. I could still use that air bike if I had kind of the general strength and conditioning or fitness IQ. And if it's, what would be 1,200 meters on a Rogue Eco bike or an assault bike, that's kind of replacing like a 400-meter run. Okay, we're going to call that, now this might be more or less for some people, but generally speaking, a 2-minute effort at a moderate level of discomfort, not high, not low. And so if I hopped on my Schwinn Airdyne with no monitor and I had to replace that effort each round, I would just look at the clock and I would exert myself just moderately for 2 minutes and then I would hop off the bike and I would have no idea the calories that I accumulated. I would have no idea the distance that I went, but I would have preserved the stimulus really well. On the other hand, we've got like a dance with the devil, blow it up, go full send kind of a day on the eco bike or the assault bike where it's, every 3 minutes for 10 rounds, 12 calories for men and 8 for women. So that's like a full send, rest the remaining time. Full send. Well, then, a little interaction with some people. It's like, hey, how fast is everyone doing this? Like, you're giving everything you have on the bike to get this 12 calories for men and 8 for women. And you hear, I mean, there's a range because people are just incredibly fit and crazy, but let's just say it's 20 to 30 seconds ish, somewhere around there. And you're like, okay, I'm gonna get on my Airdyne bike that has no monitor. I'm gonna hop on it every 3 minutes for 10 rounds, and for somewhere between 20 and 30 seconds, I am going to try to make my heart explode with how fast I'm pedaling. You've got no clue the calories that you did. You go full send for 25 seconds, and that is what it is. You would not be shortchanged. So, like you said, you're not looking to compete. You're looking just get fit. You can make it happen with darn near any bike, my friend. Jake C. Jake, I knew that you had a question today. When box jumps, any style, are programmed as a standalone exercise, like before the main lift of a heavy day, what are your thoughts about doing them weighted, like a trap bar jump? First of all, initial thought, cool. Second thought, have your ducks in a row. um, if if you are capable and confident to perform a weighted jump at the loading that you can be successful with and the height that you know that you can land, and you know that you're good with that, right? Grown ups doing grown up things, I got no drama with it. I can tell you from overseeing a large community that most people, most circumstances, most of the time, don't need to go there. You could be a different and rare bird, and that's cool. Most people, um, regular box jumps and variations of regular box jumps are plenty challenging, both between the ears, overcoming fear, the physical stimulus, the benefits that they'll get from it, the almost infinite ways that they can play with it. Great. But again, if you are at that place in your fitness journey and your level of competence and capacity that you want to play with a weighted jump and you've signed your own waiver, I got no drama with that in any way, shape, or form. Video it and put it in the private Facebook group because we're going to want to see it. It's be cool. I'm certainly seeing people do it, but it'd be cool. Renee. This is what Renee says. Hi, Coach. Linchpin seems to be unique amongst CrossFit in that we bench press. Can a t-shirt be designed showcasing our love of the movement? I'll see what I can do. Henry A. I'm using Linchpin in the gym, and I'm often asked what an athlete should do when the workout calls upon them to pick their own load. I have my thoughts on this, but wonder what yours are. So, I'm assuming you're talking about a Linchpin workout where there won't be potentially a load assigned to a particular movement. Maybe it's multiple rounds for time, and in that, one of those rounds is 10 strict shoulder press, and there's not a load assigned. Well, anytime that there's not a load assigned, a couple things are probably going to take place. There could often be either in the notes below the workout, a recommended loading based upon a 1 rep max, and so a percentage. And so you don't have to follow that, but it just might be guidance. I'm just going to pull it out of thin air right now. Maybe it's 10, X number of rounds, and it's 10 reps of strict shoulder press per round. You choose the load, but it says recommend 60% of 1 rep max. Okay, don't have to use it, but that's a good recommendation for somebody that's like, I've got no clue. The other part on anything that has not a loading assigned, but is asking the athlete to choose the load, I promise you that if you watch the video attached to that day's training, that I make one for every single day's training, I will give verbal guidance and recommendation in that daily video to help you choose the correct load, to help you understand the stimulus, understand whether it should be unbroken right away, should it be a tough 10, should you be able to do this for 3 rounds, then rounds 4 and 5 it falls apart, do right away. I don't want you to get the 10 reps unbroken. If it should be something that you have to stop around 7, shake it out, and then do a 3, like whatever that is, I will absolutely cover that in the daily video. So I would say make sure you watch that in the daily video. Patrick S. I'm curious this Friday's workout as to why you don't have 20 box jumps. Well, you have 20 box jumps for the prescribed, the wildcard, and the scaled, but not for the limited equipment option. For the limited equipment option, we assume that they don't have a box. That's why there's no box jumps assigned for that day. So for the limited equipment crew, the only gear that we assume that they have and program around is a sturdy pull-up bar bolted to the wall that you can kip off of, a pair of gymnastics rings that you can't even mount high from your ceiling to do like beautiful kipping ring muscle ups. You can only hang those gymnastics rings from that wall mounted pull up bar so they're more like ring dip height, a pair of dumbbells, and a jump rope. That's all we assume they have for gear. We don't assume that they have a rower. We don't assume they have a bike. We don't assume they have a kettlebell. We don't assume they have a box. None of that stuff. And so that's why box jumps aren't programmed for the limited equipment option. Now, if you are somebody that regularly follows the limited equipment option, but you have a box, feel free to do the box jumps. You're totally good to go. Another thing that you could do if you are a limited equipment option follower and you don't have a box, you could do broad jumps and you'd be totally good to go. Okay, let's see here. More questions. I got them called up. From Stephen K. Do any celebrities or other famous people subscribe to Linchpin programming? I don't expect you to drop names, but curious if any actors, musicians, politicians, etc. are out there among us. I don't really think so. I don't think so. And if they are, I don't know about it. Let me put it that way. I will say there is one politician who is the mayor of a very large city in the United States, that doesn't follow Lynchpin exclusively, but he dabbles in it, enjoys the monster mashes, and we chat every now and then. But that's it. Let's see. Henry P. When I did Monday's workout, I noticed that my shoulders get tight when I back squat. By that I mean the rack. By that I mean the rack position or where I put my arms. Should I try to address this? If so, how? Or should I just front squat and do dumbbell squats going forward? Thanks for the advice. So on Monday's workout, I noticed that my shoulders get tight when you back squat. Henry, I'm going to be honest with you. It's really tough for me to figure out why that's happening, um, without a bunch more information or seeing the rack position or whatnot. Maybe you could film a video of that and upload it to like the private Facebook group and have people see what's going on. Now, bear in mind, I should probably put all the caveats that you have to put in 2025, right? I'm not a medical professional. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not addressing body issues outside the scope of my practice or whatever it is. I'm not a physical therapist, etc., etc., etc. Like whatever disclaimers have to happen. But point being, and also your shoulders get, quote unquote tight. And that could be a whole range of things. Tight, just you get you're really crunching your shoulders back, and you've got tension in your upper back, and you're really keeping your body tense, and that could potentially be a good thing. But it sounds like you're talking about it something outside of what you would consider normal. Like, does tight mean painful? What does that actually mean? So I'd be curious just to know a bit more about that. Has it always been like that? Have you played with your shoulder position on the back rack to see if some positions cause that tightness and some don't? Are you high bar back squatting? Are you low bar back squatting? So there might be some things that you could try and find, is there something that is safe and strong and secure and tight for your upper back, but not painful, because we obviously don't want it to be painful. But like you said, should you just front squat or backs or dumbbell squat? Man, you might be the only person I've heard that could go to a front squat instead of the back squat. Most people struggle with the front rack position way more than they struggle with finding, successfully racking a bar across the back. So the situation that you're describing is a bit unique, and so it's piqued my curiosity there. But I would try to get to the root cause of, is there just something different that you could do, or do you actually have something going on in your shoulders or upper back that needs to be addressed, and it's just manifesting, and you are aware of it when you back squat. But if you went to a physical therapist or something that they could identify, oh, you got this going on in your shoulder, we can fix that for you. And then you come back to the back squat and you've got no drama with the back squat. So I would try to find that. Josh Hill, I need to work on my engine. Welcome to the club. What's the best way to incorporate additional running or whatever into Linchpin without overtraining? So let's just stay with the running thing for right now. And again, always an unsatisfying answer to say it depends, but it does depend because each athlete's life is a bit different. Are you, Josh, are you 25, 35, 45, 55, or 65? That's going to play a factor as to probably how much you can stick into your week additional and not have it degrade other things. Does your life and your work schedule and whether you do or don't have a family and these other responsibilities lend itself well to you getting a broken 6 hours of sleep a night or a wonderful deep sleep for 8 or 9 each night? That's going to play a factor as well as to what you can load into your training schedule and not have it go sideways on you. Is your nutrition wonderfully on point? All of these things matter when you say, like, how much can I do? So that's why everyone's a bit different. So take that into account. Make sure all those ducks are in a row first. Now, if all those things are, then I would say a good place to start might be twice a week, trying to take off on a slower run, a longer, slower run. Let's say, depending upon what you're comfortable with, Josh, but just popping into my head, twice a week, can you go out for a 30-minute jog? And I'm using the word jog instead of run. There's probably going to be a fair number of people that could add that into what they have going on without too many negative effects, if any at all. So that might be a really good place to start and then see if you know yourself pretty well. Adding that in, is everything cool? Or are you feeling a bit more sluggish? Are you having difficulty recovering? Do your legs feel a bit heavy? Now, that's why I intentionally said 2 like slower runs and not like 2 track days. I mean, you're talking track days and sprinting and whatnot. Well, now we're going to light up the backside like you did 2 additional heavy days, and you are most likely going to have those days have an impact on the other day's trainings. But 2 30-minute jogs might be a nice place to start. Then play it by ear from there, and then you could either increase the time domain of one of those runs, it becomes a 40-minute run or something like that, or if you could tolerate it, maybe one of them is a long, slow distance each week, and the other one is more of an interval-based thing. But that could be a good place to start. Let's see. Okay, a few more questions here. Reed, can you walk us through the programming process? How far out do you program at a time, etc.? Big question. That would take a long time to discuss, but I can give you a great resource. So I'll answer the second question. How far out do you program at a time? I program out in 4-week blocks. And so I'll look ahead and I'll program out the next 4 weeks. And then I usually try to have the next 4 weeks done, so it's ready to upload, because the uploading process takes a really long time as well. And then while that's uploading, I'll be working on the upcoming 4-week block. So I usually try to be a month ahead is what I try to do, 4 weeks ahead. Can I walk us through the programming process? I can give you something to read. So I put out a free ebook, totally free, doesn't cost you a dime. If you go to CrossFit Linchpin's website, one of the tabs on there says ebook. Just click on that. I think it'll ask you for your email or some information, and then you can download the free ebook. That is, I think, 52 pages, and it walks through start to finish me going and creating a 4-week block of training, my thought process, the checklist that I use, lessons learned, and all that. It's by far, I'm not saying it's the only way to program workouts. There might be an infinite number of ways to do it. It's just what I have developed over the course of the years works well, and hopefully you enjoy it. So go ahead and check that out. Kim T, if you had unlimited funds and space, what fun or not equipment would you buy for your home gym? Man, if I had unlimited funds and space, there's a video of my home gym on the CrossFit Linchpin YouTube channel under like garage gym tours or whatnot. So you can see my garage gym takes up like a probably what would be a 1.5 car garage, I would say. It's not just it's in a 1 car space, but we bled over a little bit, so I'd say it's like a 1.5 car is what it's taken up. We get everything crammed in there, and I mean, there's way more gear that I could buy, but I I'm actually like struggling to think of what I would get. I don't have anything fancy or over the top. I got all your basics covered real well. I would probably love I would love a full dumbbell rack, like a crazy full dumbbell rack, like from fives up to 150-pound dumbbells. That would be cool. That would be about $700,000 and would take up a ton of space. But I would really like to do that. And then I could really use those, like the super heavy dumbbells. Wouldn't get used super frequently, but they'd be like really fun for variance. If maybe on a day that it was a 2159 or whatever it was and had a deadlift that for guys was, let's say, 225 pounds, but I had a pair of 100-pound dumbbells that I could grab and do the workout with a pair of 100-pound dumbbells. Ooh, that would be nasty and dirty. And so for stuff like that, that'd be pretty cool. I'd love to have the unlimited dumbbell selection. And then it could also be really fun for like some heavy carries. That would be fun. And probably the same with kettlebells. I'd probably like to have some absurdly heavy kettlebells just to play with. Other than that, probably what I would use unlimited funds for would be to knock down my garage and rebuild my garage to have like 20-foot high ceilings and like double my workout space. That's what I would actually really love. And the reason that I would love to have that is I could hang like a 15-foot rope, and that would be really cool to have that. But other than that, I'm pretty happy. But I think the dumbbells would be my answer. Okay. Final question. This is from Chris Yu. And Chris is frustrated with his 1 rep maxes. He feels that he's not touching them regularly enough to make improvement and wants to know how he gets over the mental hurdle of getting weaker because I'm not touching those lifts frequently enough. So, Chris, this is an interesting one. And this is why, I always just try to tell the truth, shoot people straight. You know, what we do at Linchpin works profoundly well for most people, under most circumstances, most of the time. Does that mean it will work ideally for every human being on the planet? Probably not. That would be a profoundly egotistical statement to make. But I can tell you, like I've said before, if I thought, like for example, with the bench press, like we don't bench press that frequently, right? If I thought we needed to bench press every week, like something that you would see with like a more classic bodybuilding style program or like a linear program like that, well, that's what I would do if I thought that worked the best. Or if we had to back squat every week to get people strong, that's what I would do because I want to put out what in my mind is the best minimalist strength and conditioning program on the planet that will serve the greatest swath of people most optimally across athletic ability, age ranges, the whole 9 yards. And that's why we do what we do. That's why we don't do heavy lift plus Metcon. That's why, it's why we've landed on where we've landed on. And, based upon, like even just what I read at the beginning there, and you can go through the private Facebook group and see like the numbers that people are hitting. The bench press is a 270-pound bench press, etc., etc. We got John doing a bent over row with 295 pounds. It's preposterous. You got people, deadlifting north of 500 pounds, back squatting north of 400 pounds, left and right, with no strength bias and whatnot. So it works really, really well for a huge number of people. But for some particular reason, for you, Chris, is it maybe not working that great? That's totally possible. I mean, just real talk, it's totally possible. And so I know also an unsatisfying answer, but each athlete is a little bit different, right? And so what we'd want to make sure is taking like a real honest look at how your training has been going for a while. Are you doing all the basics and doing all the basics well? And if so, great, right? That just gives us the metric to make sure we're making a fair assessment. How is the sleep? Is it rock solid? Is the nutrition dialed in? Are you training at a frequency that makes sense for you with the appropriate amount of intensity? Because intensity drives results. You know, period, end of story. So, are you doing that? I know, Chris, that you are in your 40s. Not saying that plays a factor, but I'm not saying it doesn't play a factor. But Father Time remains undefeated. We've got plenty of people in their 40s who are not just like moderately strong, but impressively strong and will continue to get PRs. The individual who just did the bent over row with 295 pounds is in his 50s, etc., etc. What do we've got? Um, you know, was it Buck the other day did like with that hang power clean, like 295 pounds or something ridiculous? Like it happens all the time. But for whatever reason, you feel like it's not happening for you. And so we'd have to make sure that that base layer of the foundation is that all done appropriately. And then if that's the case, then if those are the things that are actual, valid, honest deficiencies that aren't going in the right direction for yourself, then for you as an athlete individually, if you haven't played with the accessory work, that might be something that you might want to consider on whatever lift or lifts you're finding aren't quite where you want them to be. Because some accessory work each week will hit those specific areas, and that might be worth it for you. So I would just take, again, that honest assessment, make sure all of those things are there. And then it also just depends upon where you are in your fitness journey as well. Is is it just some lifts that aren't going where you want them to? Or do you seem to be in a slump with everything? That would be interesting as well, and that would be worthy of a deep dive as to what happens to be going on with your life as well. The other thing is it also depends upon what an athlete, and I'm not saying this applies to you, Chris, but what an athlete needs to do to actually become fitter. Because for some people, it is actually getting stronger. Now, ideally, we want to raise everything, right? Ideally, we'd like to have people getting stronger with the barbell. We'd love to have their engine improving, and we'd love their body weight, their gymnastics to improve as well, and to be doing it in a sustainable manner that doesn't overtrain them. Now, if somebody comes into me as um, and Jake, I think actually this was you, Jake, who asked a question, and we gave him a shout out today. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, but I believe you were a former strongman or powerlifter. I'm almost positive about that. So if somebody comes in profoundly swayed to one side, squat, dead, press numbers through the roof because they were a dedicated powerlifter or strongman, and their 5K run you'd have to measure with a sundial, and they don't have strict body weight movements, etc., etc. And somebody says, "Can you make me fitter?" I'm going to say, "Yeah, I can make you fitter, but you're probably going to have to give up some of that monster deadlift and back squat and bench and whatever it is because you've got these gaping deficiencies somewhere else, and then we'll even you out, and you will be absolutely a fitter human being, but you might not touch those old powerlifting numbers." Same if somebody comes in with a 4-minute mile and they can't back squat an empty barbell. Can I make you fitter? Yes. And I'll probably slow down your mile, which might be a tough pill for you to swallow, but we're going to add so much more to your back squat. You're going to have gymnastic capability, etc., etc. So it also just depends for you, Chris, if you had, was your scale of fitness overweighted to one side, potentially to the barbell stuff, and not so much with like engine and body weight, and some of that had to even out? I'm not quite sure what the answer to that is. But I would make sure all of those, the base layers, are done properly. Make sure you are bringing ferocious intensity appropriately, safely, of course. I don't know if the word ferocious and safe and appropriate all go in the same sentence, but I'll put it there. Level of intensity to your heavy days, respecting them as well. Same with the heavy days at a high heart rate also, that you are absolutely, especially because you are in your 40s, giving yourself the rest that you need so that you can attack those days if they are a priority for you. And then I would look at the optional accessory work as well. So hopefully that helps. And as we record this, it's Thursday, so it's a rest day for most of us. I encourage you to take it. I'm going to take it, and I will see you online.